I want to dive into right now because those of you that are just joining us, we have a Power Pack program tonight.
Yes.
There's a word that, Scott, I had not heard before. I'm going to try to say it. Technocracy.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm going to dive into that. Let you unpack.
Okay.
Technocracy.
Since I was here doing Digital Disconnect, that was the latest seminar that we've done. And again, just email me, beltoftruthministries@gmail.com if folks want to experience more of what this technocracy is all about. Our website is beltoftruth.tv.
Yeah, we're sure. There we go.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, there's the email address. Nice. They have that from last time. Your team here, by the way, the graphics
They're
team,
the best.
audio, the visual.
Best.
I mean, they're incredible. So what is a technocracy? Well, it could have multiple meanings, actually, and we explore both or multiple meanings in the seminar. And the first thing that we think about is the original meaning is just people who are specialists in their field. They were known as the technocrats.
Right.
And so if you just have elevated to the positions of power in a society, the people who are best at their given field, and then they just run that, then that's a technocracy. But it's shifted in its meaning a little bit these days because we have so much technology, not technocrats, not specialists, but so much technology. And we have big tech, we have these platforms, we have search engines, we have social media platforms. And as that rises to prominence in society, it can become the real governing structure of our minds, of our society, of the value system of our children, and then that becomes one of the devil's most potent forms of deception.
Right.
And I guess that's in Digital Disconnect too. This is kind of the next step from Digital Disconnect, is understanding the next waves of the technology. Where is it going next? How is it transforming what it means to be human? How is it shaping the mass mind? You might remember Edward Bernays called it the group mind. So he started this thing way back in the 1920s as the founder of modern public relations. He gave us consumer culture, the standardization of everything, so we all become, in the biblical words, conformed to this world. You were about to take the words right out of my mouth. Conformed or transformed, Romans 12, verse 2. Well, with the technology and the techniques that they have today, it is so much easier than Edward Bernays ever even dreamed of when he, in the 1920s, said we can control the group mind and they won't even know about it. Those are his words. He said, we are the ones that pull the wires that control the public mind. He said, our thoughts are suggested, our tastes are formed by men we have never heard of. And he called that the invisible government, basically the corporate establishment, the advertising industry behemoth, Madison Avenue, to shape our tastes and dictate our future.
Right.
How much more today?
Right, oh yeah.
Wow, the advent of just going from the Commodore 64 computer when we thought, man, 64 megabytes, what are people going to do with 64 megabytes? And nowadays, that's not even a single file any longer.
No, right.
Yeah, but the world has just catapulted itself into this technical revolution.
Absolutely.
And it's not only a technical revolution that started, but a technical evolution because it's continuing to change. It's changing with the times. It's changing with the demands. And I think that people have this, and you might talk about this anhedonic response. You know, Dr. Archibald Hart wrote a book called Thrilled to Death. And you may or may not have read that. He's a well-known speaker, get invited to universities all over the world. And he said, thrilled to death. And he talks about this anhedonic condition that people have, anhedonia, which means a baby, for example. You give a baby a piece of candy. I'll illustrate this here. I have a little. This sound is the prelude to something. If they hear this sound and they get the candy next, that sound, as in a 6-month-old and a 9-month-old and a 1-year-old, they quickly associate that sound with what comes out because they get that next. When they hear that sound right away, they move their heads in the direction of that sound because something sweet is on the way. That's how they control. So then they get that, and after a while, this is not sweet enough. So they raise the bar. The baby has more, the bar's raised. In other words, it took very little to get to the pleasure center, but now they demand more, so you have to raise their demand is raised. More dopamine is coming in. You have to raise, so they raise the bar. And then what happens is it gets higher and higher to the point where you no longer are able to experience simple pleasure.
Yep.
Now, we've seen this in Africa. Remember when you took balloons?
Yeah.
We took balloons.
We took balloons to Africa as a gift when we went there on a trip. When you're speaking, and we gave the kids balloons. It was they were so excited.
It's like the world.
balloons.
It's like Christmas cake.
And they were like, "Wow, blow it up big!" And whoa, they were so excited. Okay.
And I said, if you give a kid in America a balloon, they'll pop it.
Yeah.
That's a birthday party.
Right.
But we saw that they were not.
As a gift.
They were outside playing in the dirt, rolling a can, bouncing a ball, playing tag.
Simple pleasure.
Simple pleasures, which is missing in what we call a civilized society.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You see it.
Well, yeah, and you can see the process of that anhedonic, or what other scientists call the pleasure trap.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it gets us in that condition of needing more. Because when you flood the brain, when you flood the reward circuitry of the brain with an unnatural stimuli of dopamine, dopamine receptors start to shut down. So, because dopamine is so abundantly or readily available, what do I need all these receptors for?
Right.
So then you need to maintain that high level in order to get the same pleasure hit. In fact, you need to up the ante, like you were saying. But that always follows is followed by a crash.
Yes.
And so it's the traditional addictive cycle. It's the brain reward circuitry for addictions, which God gave for us to enjoy pleasure in balance.
Yes.
In its proper phases of life, in its proper ways, not with this artificial stimuli. Even with you mentioned the candy wrapper. That reminded me of the Pavlovian response of the dogs. Remember Pavlov's dogs? The bell rings and they begin to salivate. And boy, has big tech specialized in this. They're in the addiction creation industry. That is and that's not me, that's the whistleblowers who've come out who are saying, we designed this to give people a little dopamine hit right at the right time. This is in Digital Disconnect. Sean Parker, he says, and we knew what we were doing consciously and we did it anyway. And he was feeling regret because he says, God only knows what this is doing to our children's brains.
Right.
Yeah, remember there's a Southwest commercial, would you like to you want to get away right now?
Want to get away.
Want to get away. And so Southwest Airlines, this is not a bad thing. They said they had some kind of a algorithm where if you're looking for a trip to New York, for example, you put a range of price. When it hits that range, you get a notice, bing.
Yep.
And purchase your ticket at that time. There were many commercials years ago, and people could be at the dinner table, they hear that bing, and they jump, and they run to their computer and book their ticket. And that's what you're talking about, the Pavlov dog.
Exactly. Stimulus response. Yep.